Welcome back, Morbid. Thanks for joining us again for another week. We have Kimann Schultz with us today and coming at you live from the Nashville airport, okay? Because we are here for you on the pod, all right? Moths to the flame. We try not to miss an episode. So I am actually super excited. I'm flying to Salem, Massachusetts, of all places. Going there for the rest of the week. Can't wait. Super excited. But before I get there, we have got to talk with this fabulous author, K.A. Schultz. So do you publish mostly under K.A. Schultz? Is that correct?
It is. I decided years ago, long enough ago, and enough projects back that I'm pretty much stuck with that for now. I like the neutrality of it. I like to have people not think firsthand, is this a woman writing, a man writing, or any other thing? I'm just K.A. and that's it.
I love it. I love it. So K.A. is an author, illustrator, and HWA member. She writes with pictures and draws with words, which I love that. That seems to be kind of your log line all on your website, and that's fun.
Yeah.
K.A. is an art historian and a fan of all things darkly romantic and romantically dark. Her horror sci-fi collection, Nethereum. Am I saying that right? Or is it Nethereum? Nethereum?
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Okay.
It's perfect. Nethereum.
Okay. And Jacob are available on Amazon. To learn more about the fabulous K.A. Schultz, please visit her Linktree at linktree.k.a.schultz or visit www.butterflybroth.com. Which I have to say, butterfly broth is so catchy and cute and fun. Like, I love that. It's kind of like dark academia vibes, you know?
It totally is. Well, and when you read that story, there is a story entitled Butterfly Broth in Nethereum. You'll know exactly what it was. And it was an image that came to me, and everything is based off of that. And a search netted me no other results. So I kind of owned the word, and therefore I just use it.
I love it. Branding. Take that. You can have some butterfly merch. And, that's so fun. Definitely. Yes. Okay, so I want to know, before we dive into Nethereum, because I'm only halfway through, so I haven't made it to butterfly broth yet, but I want to hear about this. Explain to us writing with pictures, but drawing with words in your work. And how does that sort of unique approach contribute to the themes in your stories?
Absolutely, and I can tie it even very directly to writing horror. I've written all my life. I've got a baby bluesmith Corona I was given in 6th grade, which I still have.
Oh my gosh.
I've been drawing all my life. And I did a lot of illustration work. I've got training in fashion illustration and architectural rendering. That was my last 9 to 5 that I did, and I always loved doing it. I've worked predominantly in black and white. I've parked a lot of my artwork at an Instagram account called Butterfly Broth. It's just there to be looked at. And that includes ballpoint pen illustrations, things that were either spontaneous or planned, and expressing myself through that way. I was always an art kid. I still am an art kid. And I did a series of architecture illustrations for years and years, working black and white, lots of detail. One of the things that I learned early on, in high school especially, if I'm spending hours and hours drawing something, my mind, my hands get so accustomed to the image. The way to rediscern the image, turn it upside down, look at it in a mirror, and then you have double reversal, and then you see where you need to put more dark in order to bring more light out. The contrast is what it's all about. And I have discovered that in horror, when I'm writing or when I'm explaining the process, that the darker I can make it, the brighter I can shine the light on something else, including if there is a heartfelt message or something that is maybe a little bit more of a parable that I wish to convey in there. I can blend all of those things, but it does require the luxury of going good and dark to get that point across.
I love that. What an eloquent answer. Man, that was deep. I love that. So I absolutely agree. Even reading what I have in Nethereum, you can tell there's sort of a moral compass guiding certain characters, and that there are overarching, thoughts that you want the reader to take away from that. And so for Nethereum specifically, do you have like a common theme that you were going for the entire collection of stories, or I love how they feed
Mhm.
into each other too, because I was so shocked
Yes.
starting out the book how it started, and then I
Yes.
was like, wait a minute, oh my gosh, now we're going into something that's connected. This is awesome. Like, I
Yes.
loved it. I
Well,
loved it.
and subsequent characters will make references to other things. There's a story called Draft Night, and he makes reference to a holiday, the Santa Domnia, Saint of Everything. So I try to think about it as a whole book. I have these brief memoranda that occur periodically throughout the book. And yeah, the idea is, because it is a collection of short stories, a little bit of flash fiction and poetry, which I love writing horror poetry. I like to tie that all together into a single entity, which is Nethereum. That word is parked with several others at Urban Dictionary. I love crafting words as needed, because it's all about findability. Also, when you can Google something and land on it, you've accomplished something. And I can do that with Nethereum. I'm going to try the same thing with the next title to this next book. And what I found myself explaining to people that maybe gives us this tie-in for Nethereum is that in this book, it became a real goal to say the darkest, maybe the goriest, the creepiest things in the most beautiful or lovely way possible. And that becomes a real fun exercise for me, because there I am illustrating with words.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And your descriptions are luscious and dripping. And readers out there, you are going to want to get your hands on this book, because it's like immersing yourself into your world. And I find that so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Edith and the other characters in her story are out in the ocean,
Yes.
it's like I can feel the waves and the darkness, and that is so
Yes.
fascinating. So
Yes.
speaking of emotions in a story, that one deals heavily with grief, and that's
Yes.
fascinating to me. I really
Yes.
think that was an interesting dive that you took in there, explaining, for some people how life goes on, but for some it becomes a fabric of their being, for I think most people that have
Yes.
experienced grief. So yeah, that was a really touching story arc. I felt like I really enjoyed that, and all the twists and turns that came along with it. So.
Well, and I am a lifelong mermaid lover, and I predate by a long time the Ariel era. And so I have always thought out mermaids. And so one of the things that you do when you're a creative person, creative kid, creative writer, illustrator, you begin to create those very things that you wish to have, around yourself. I have drawn mermaids. I have written other mermaid stories, but then these two are great loves. And another aspect of Edith is the idea of being left behind and being included. And she wanted to be included. She hated being left behind, because that, of course, is how the very first story ended. And in the end, that's why she had this quiet joy. So without giving too much away.
Very true. I want to ask, now that you've said that you were always creating and bringing the things that you love to life, did you have mermaid characters like Jonah Blue that you would put in the tank like he did? Was that
Yes,
a personal reference? I thought so.
I did. So I think that and back when I blogged, it was in the early blogging years, at early Huffington Post. Many friends of mine were fashion bloggers, and they were blogging about themselves and what they wore. And there was so much of that around. And I made a conscious decision. I'm not going to write about me, because I am in all the words. I'm in between the lines. I'm in between the words, and tiny little autobiographical nuggets. Yes, they get tucked in everywhere. And that's partly for fun. And yes, I absolutely had a glass terrarium that I would fill with water, and I would color it, and I would make a sea floor, and I would draw mermaids, and I would push them around until they fell apart, because you couldn't find mermaids anywhere. Now, that same terrarium I also used for tiny toads, and I used to feed them bugs. So, that terrarium gave me a whole lot of fun time as a kid.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think there's something about that authentic quality that comes through when people have that. And I'm sure you've heard me talk about on the pod before, most of the personal of myself that I inject into stories, anxiety and horribleness. But yeah. I mean, there's a realness that comes with it that people are like, they've experienced that. They know that. They've spent time by the seashore. They, I thought that was just so fascinating. We have a lot of writers that listen to the podcast, and so I'm always trying to fill their heads with as many tips as we can. And your world building and your, just again, that luscious prose is so in depth, and it's very, I don't want to say calculated, but you can tell that you put thought into every single word. And so I would like
Yes,
to know kind of what is,
mhm,
it seems very intentional. So what is your
mhm,
process for that world building, immersive experience that you convey with your writing?
mhm. Mhm. I very much trust the intuitive creative process for that first outpouring. It's something that I studied in school and later wrote an article on endoceps and exoceps. And when I came to understand it, it's from the 70s. Silvano Arietti is the person behind this one. So having learned about it, it helped me to trust my subconscious creative flow, that when the outpouring occurs, and that can be triggered visually, it could be triggered by a word, and you can kind of tell when the trigger happens. That's when the story comes together. So I have countless word files in other files on my virtual desktop on my laptop, which I can tap from time to time. Sometimes I'm surprised by how some of these come together in other stories, or all of a sudden something I thought might have been a full-length story ends up being a poem, or just a very brief flash fiction piece. I know you've discussed this in other podcasts, the idea of writing to a film that you're watching play itself out. I do, in fact, watch it, and a few stories, I have been surprised at where my story goes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to do this. So I lay it down. But then the editing process, and thank goodness for technology, I do not know how writers wrote the beautiful things that they did without the benefit of technology,
I don't know how they
is
did it
to go,
either.
yeah, it's to go through for flow, it's to tweak the story, it's to delete, it's to add, delete some more. And then I will absolutely go through and I will check for phonetics and cadence. I was a serious bookworm, not so much now because I do so much more writing, but I became aware, even as a parent reading to my children, where there was a writer whose prose was so lyrical that it felt good to read it. And Roald Dahl happens to be one of them. And that also then slides right into poetry. And so I want the phonetics, and I want the flow of the words. If I'm going to choose the word path or course, it's going to be maybe because the vowel, I want to go this way with my mind, the voice in my mind. So I do think about that as well.
I love that. And so as you've heard, I'm a musician. And so when I was reading
Mm-hmm.
your words, it felt very musical to me and very in that lyrical style of, the wonderful ballads and the cadence, but then also some sporadic moments that just absolutely hit the right notes, so to speak. And
Yes.
it's so interesting to hear you describe it that way, because I feel like I cannot have that conversation with everybody, that like I feel what you're saying about how you can
Yes.
literally feel how the words are moving, almost floating through the air as you're reading them out loud. And I really think Nethereum is one of those books that
I love it.
is so well received, read out loud, because I think it's so beautiful that I would love to listen to it as an audiobook. I'm not usually an audiobooker, but I think I would like to
Yeah.
listen to this one as an audiobook because it just
Yeah.
is so pretty. It's like listening to music almost, but in word form. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
you're
Hopefully that'll
welcome.
be a project for someday.
Absolutely, definitely. Okay, so what challenges do you feel like you face as an author, illustrator, especially? I mean, you mentioned technology. We love technology, but we writers, we're experiencing some challenging times in the face of technology. So, what
Mm-hmm.
what kind of
Mm-hmm.
challenges do you face? Do you ever have like writer's block, or what do you experience?
It is enough of a luxury to be able to write that I know well enough to do other things as life calls for them, so that when I am writing, I'm actually there because I have something I'm going to put down. I would not, I'm too old, life is too short to sit and stare into a computer and not know what to say or do. Then I can do something else, but I can come back to it. And again, I'm trusting the creative process. I'm trusting my subconscious. So, yeah, so I rather approach it that way than sit and muse and ponder and not get anywhere with it.
I love that. You and I really are cut from the same cloth. Because I'll have a writing
That's
day,
what,
or I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, or it'll be a
yes,
music day, or it'll be a drawing day.
yes,
It's like, okay, I haven't written a
yes,
word in a week, but you know what? It's okay, because a week from now it's going to
yes,
be 2,000 words in one sitting. So absolutely.
That's right.
It's when inspiration strikes. So I think that's number one. Very, I don't want to use the word self-care. That's such a triggering word these days, but it is knowing yourself and knowing, hey, I'm not going to force myself and make this feel like a job. I'm going to still let my creativity lead the way of what direction this is going to take. And that definitely comes through in your writing because it doesn't feel forced. Yeah. It doesn't feel like, tilted or anything. So
yes, not to set oneself up for disappointing your own self. That matters. And as far as technology and some of the ills and glories, because boy, oh boy, there are extremes and all. Very simply said, I have in my very basic social media bios, I have no AI. Just NO, 2 letters there, AI, 4. So 4 letters. I am just making a statement. What you read may not be as fabulous as what AI maybe someday could do. It makes up some weird stuff still. And but what you are reading is my product and it's me. And as we said earlier, it's a little bit autobiographical. You're going to get to know me when you read my stories.
And that is what AI does not have on us because they don't have the human experience. They don't have the lived experience. So they don't have all the, doing podcasts in the airport experiences to roll off. So are there any specific authors, artists, any other type of creator that has had a significant influence on your writing or your art?
Absolutely. What a fun opportunity to give voice to those things. I do post on the people that I love best because, again, it's not always just about me. It's about who I love and who has inspired me. It's pretty safe to say that Richard Matheson is probably my favorite writer because I am focused so on the short story format. I'm focused on that as a reader with limited time and somewhat short supply of the peace and quiet to devote to longer works. And short stories, you could really get into it. Plus, it's a great exercise in writing. And Richard Matheson was able to be so eloquent and so earthy and normal and simple, and he is so eminently readable. And his ideas are so inspirational. One of the things I have found when I'm reading really good writing by somebody else, it will trigger thoughts and ideas in my own head. So I will often have to have a notepad on hand and just jot down tiny bits and pieces as I'm going on. I think Clive Barker is also a musically eloquent writer. I think Stephen King has great ideas. He's not my favorite, but he is certainly to be acknowledged. But Matheson, Clive Barker, and then, of course, Edgar Allan Poe, just also an homage to him just because he embodied completely the pathos and the Gothic, romantic, dark, sad art that he gave us all as his legacy. This person suffered. And as a result of his suffering, he gave us so much beauty. And it's a little bit sad to consider that even now. And so I think that's worth acknowledging. But then on the other hand, in my upcoming book, I have an homage to Kate Bush, who is so inspirational, the British songstress, and other things like that. And I will acknowledge where I do borrow from something. I also have a story in Nethereum where there's a direct nod to Carl Sagan and his lifelong partner, Ann Druyan. There's a spaceship named for her in the particular story because there was a wonderful meeting of the minds and hearts that is also a beautiful story in itself.
I love that. And Richard Matheson, correct me if I'm wrong, he wrote Hell House, right?
Yes, his legacy is so big that we hardly can encompass it in our general thought because it's so much out there in popular culture, whether it's the creature crawling around on a plane wing, or somewhere in time in that cult film with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. He's behind all of that. What dreams may
which
come.
Which is amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
And Stir of Echoes.
Stir of Echoes. See, right. I want you to know, it's funny, you can't see because here I am in the airport, but I'm actually wearing some Edgar Allan Poe socks right now. Because I believe it's the anniversary of his passing just happened a few days ago, if I recall correctly.
October 7th.
Yeah. So very recent and always at the
Yes,
forefront of the mind for sure. He one of our
yes,
forefathers, right? I mean,
yes.
really, truly.
And
So
yes,
I'm
and
sorry.
if I could also add, so Shirley Jackson, I don't know as well, but I love her work, and also most especially Anne Rice. And Anne Rice, I gobbled her up as a teenager, and just how she was able to create a rock solid new genre of vampire is huge because our most traditional monsters and legendary characters now vampire lore is super rich. Every culture has versions of them, but she was able to do something for our century that really revitalized everything for a vampire, and that's a huge thing.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. I mean, the impact that all of those authors have had, I mean, on the trajectory of the genre as a whole, because, horror is
Yes,
one of the original, I would say, genres, because, those are the campfire stories
absolutely.
told. Those are the like old town, those came before some of the others, people forget that. So they were
Absolutely.
pioneers. They were pioneers in our genre, and we
Yes,
have a lot to be thankful to
right.
for because of them. So thinking about, so how do you go about approaching structure and pacing so that your short stories, do you just write them until you know they're finished, or do you have a
Hmm.
goal in mind, or
Hmm.
how do you approach that process?
Hmm. I usually know the end station that I wish to get to, which is a little bit of a German translation. Endstation is very commonly used. Okay, this is the point I want to get to. And so once I get to it, I know I'm there. I know that I need to stop. And just even a story I just recently wrote, I just knocked off two big fat paragraphs that were lovely paragraphs, but I saw I was done with this other paragraph and it's like, okay, I'm good to go. Also the pacing overall is sometimes determined by the character itself. I have a vampire speaking first person. It's actually solo first person narrative. And I envision his languor and he's comfortable and he's talking. Now he's got all night, so to speak. But that will also determine the pace. So it's also a little bit character driven.
I think that's wonderful. You're just letting the story lead you where it wants to go, which is awesome. I
Yes.
love that. It's
Yes.
that homage that we always say. Well, my characters, they decided to do this because,
Yes.
I mean, sometimes they do things that I'm like, I wasn't planning on that one, but okay, here we go. It's just something about the
Yes.
process. I love that.
Yes.
So, what about any sort of tension, suspense in a story? I mean, you have such a beautiful way of delicately balancing, I think, the quiet moments with the moments of intensity. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you plot those out? Are those intentional? Is it just when you feel like, oh, this moment needs to be a little more intense? How does that work for you?
Mm-hmm. The initial outpouring determines the story. The gajillion edits that follow might enhance it or calm it down, or where I need to be brief. And of course, with horror, and I'm very free with profanity. Can I swear on this podcast? So
Absolutely.
anyway,
Yes,
but
you
okay, well, I can write something beautifully for two paragraphs, and I can say "fuck you" in the next sentence, and all of
That's
a
right.
sudden there's a little bit of spice, and I enjoy doing that, and I think that's one of the fun things with horror, where also even there's a little bit of very dark humor in it. It's
Oh,
kind of like
definitely.
literary sass, and I'm going to put that in there where I can, or a little bit of gore. I'm going to get real good and deep on a bit of blood or how the blood tastes, and that way I can, in a sense, that speeds it up too, because also the brevity is in getting right to the point.
Mhm. I love that term, literary sass. That is so on the point. Like that is exactly what it
Yeah.
is, because the humor
Yes.
that we kind of thread into horror, people don't expect that. I have some
Yes.
writing friends that they are not horror writers, horror readers. They do not consume the genre in any
Mm-hmm.
form or fashion, but they love me, so they'll read
Mm-hmm.
my books, and then they're like, I
Yes.
didn't realize horror was like that. I didn't know that it could be funny. I didn't know that it could be,
Yes.
romantic. I didn't know that it could be beautiful. And I'm like, there are
Yes.
so many layers to horror. And that literary
Yeah.
sass is my favorite component for sure, because I like that
Yes.
little like
Yes.
funny little nod in there. So that's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So let's see, when you are going to edit, revise, obviously we talked about gajillion,
Mm-hmm.
how long did it take for you to edit and revise Nethereum?
I don't know that it's ever done. Something that I once came up with is that I am never content with my content. Um, I, I pretty much have put Nethereum to bed. I have tweaked it only when I have seen a weird error that I think a draft might stuck in there. When you read my story draft might, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's when you
Okay.
open up a document and you know the damn document was perfect. And all of a
Yes.
sudden, there's this letter there. And it's like, how did it get there? Well, I think
Yep.
it's the draft mites. They circulate around the World Wide Web and they infect things. So I have a whole story based on that also. And so,
Love that.
so sometimes I'm just fishing for draft mites to see if I could get the little buggers and get them out of there.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. That is so good. That you've got a whole like, oh shit, what is the word? Not entomology, like bugs, like insects.
Yeah.
So you've got butterflies,
Yes.
you've got your draft mites. I'm seeing a whole visual here, right? All of that. So that's really cool. That is really cool. What do you think are some of the most rewarding aspects of being an author illustrator, other than, of course, bleeding onto the page?
hmm I love understanding both sides of it. Um, I think that the illustration does factor into my writing in terms of being conscious of painting a picture. By the same token, and you might, if you're reading more of the stories, you might start to realize I don't spend much time describing a character unless it's absolutely imperative. Um, I have, so for instance, one story, which one do I want to use as my, so how about the monstrance and the relic? There is
Oh,
the woman is graphically described because she needed to be, and I had so much fun doing it. But I will often not describe a person. I will use neutral names so that a person can cast the character as they're reading it. And the really interesting thing is I have had characters cast completely differently by different people, where I might have had a man in mind, then somebody reads it and they perceive this to be a woman. And I get a real big kick out of that. And I want you to picture this word Gothic in the same way that we might say the word critique. Gothic.
yep.
And it's just a little different. And what I'm doing is I'm owning the spelling. I'm owning a slight little bit of the phonetics. So it is unique and findable. And with my German background, hey, wanted to throw an umlaut in there.
I
So
love that.
that is
And
now the title of the next book.
it goes so well. I'm going to hold up Ethereum with
Yes.
it. It's like they
Yes.
are a set. I love that. That's beautiful. They like flow from one to the other, and you kind of have
Mm-hmm.
that the sliding face aspect.
Yes.
Man, that is some
Yes.
cool,
Yes.
cool. All right, well, thank you
Yes.
for sharing that with us. Look at that,
Yes.
Moths the Flame,
Yay.
an exclusive
Yeah.
reveal.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Okay, so tell us about the names. Then, obviously, you have that with Nethereum. How did that name come
Mm-hmm.
together? I would love to hear that.
So there's a story I love so much. It's called A Brief History of Travelers. And that is a time travel story. Audrey Niffenegger really opened that door wide with The Time Traveler's Wife. The movie was okay. The book is amazing. I loved the book so much because she started to get down and dirty with the problems of time travel. So mine takes it many steps farther. For instance, dental work gets lost when people travel, or toddlers in fits of petulant rage of a 2-year-old, they will travel accidentally, and it's really problematic. So the Nethereum is based on the neither. The neither is a dimension that is intradimensional. It is when time travelers pass through time. This is the plane they traverse. And I'm not going to give the story away because I want people to buy the book and read what happens. But it is about the entire society of time travelers. They're called travelers with an apostrophe. The word is shortened up a little bit, as we do with absolutely everything. We love to abbreviate, especially in our English language. We're really good with that. And so A Brief History of Travelers takes it through several steps and into what I think is a beautiful little denouement with this traveler who visits this person and makes many, many entries to reinform her of a society that might not be around much anymore. So So it goes into a whole lot more with that. And so Nethereum, as in gymnasium, Nethereum is a realm of the neither. And early on in the introduction to Nethereum, I have an excerpt, a paragraph that explains what the neither is. And I'm hoping from that, the reader will then put that together and understand that this is the neither, this is this time-traveling interdimensional space, and all of these stories have emerged out of there.
Okay, so readers, do what I did not do and read. I don't know why I skipped over that. I'm one of those. I skip over and I'm like, get me to the story. Get me to the story.
That's fine.
So I'm like, oh no, I've missed that piece. But here I go. Oh, you know what it was? It's because I ran into the art on the first couple of pages and I was like, oh, yes. Immediately I'm like drawn into that. And then I'm like, I need the story. I need the story now. So love that. That's so cool. And so definitely everyone can find your work. Before we get into our lightning round, you can find your work on Amazon and then through your website, butterflybroth.com. Is there, will there be any other events coming up that you wanted to share, places that you'll be, where people can find you, Instagram Live, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm going to participate in StokerCon next year, of course, as a participant. One day I hope to be on a panel, would love to talk Gothic horror or something like that, but that's for down the road. I'm going to participate in St. Louis at the Scares That Care. Would love to do a little bit more. So now that I have 2 full-length books and I'm going to have wearable swag, I feel like I've got something I can really offer. I participated in the Scarelastic Book Fair this last year, hope to do that again. So yeah, I'm really, really ready. I've got the wherewithal. Criticize it if you want, love it if you want, and I've got the stuff, and I'm ready to get myself out there and just become a very active participant in the horror community and the reader community too.
Yes, that is so exciting. I cannot wait for that because I'm going to be in San Diego, right? San Diego, yeah.
Yes,
San Diego. And at St. Louis as well. So you owe me dinner.
Great.
We are going to,
we're going to hang out.
I owe you, I owe you dinner, but you owe me your time, right? I would love to hang out. That would be so, so fun. We would have the best time ever.
We totally will.
So definitely, and I'm thinking about, this will be my debut on the pod. I'm thinking about doing some live episodes of the podcast at StokerCon next year. I think that would be cool to set up and have people, like that would be fun, wouldn't it? If people just kind of see the process.
Absolutely.
And, like right there in the middle of all that
so
great
I'll
energy.
Be walking around. I'll be peeking over your shoulder like, hey, you want to talk to me a little bit? Sure.
Yeah, exactly. You'll see the pink hair from afar. You'll know. You'll be like, oh, there she is. And I'm almost 6 feet tall, so there's no missing me. Yep. Okay, are you ready for the infamous lightning round? It's more of a would you rather now, though. It's evolving, and I have to say, I say this every episode because the questions are getting better, and these are some of my favorite ones I've come up with. Get ready. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Would you rather be visited by the pool monster from Are You Afraid of the Dark or the creepy lady from Scary Stories in the Dark?
That's a hard one because I don't know them very well. I think let me just defer to the pool monster because I love all things aquatic. And give me mermaids, give me scary mermaids, give me all of them.
Yeah, but give her the pool monster. Give her the pool monster. Okay. Would you rather be one of the survivors of 28 Days Later or Zombieland? 2 very different monsters to deal with. So
yes, and I have to say I loved the first Zombieland movie. Let's see, and they eat Twinkies by the armload. So I wonder if the Twinkie would skew my decision. I'm going to say, you know what? I think I'll hang out with Woody Harrelson. Yeah, I'll take Zombieland.
I say it's literally Harrelson that brings me over to that side. I'm like, if I could be with him, like we would take over the world. It would be great. So
we'll do it.
Okay. Yeah. Would you rather have Freddy Krueger? Somebody take my horror card right now. Would you rather have Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers stalking you?
Because Michael Myers has been spoofed so fabulously, humorously, I'm going to take that one.
Yes, because it would, and I feel like in the daytime or even at night, you can like see you can see him. Freddie over here getting in the
Yeah,
dreams. I don't like that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
yeah.
You can't. No, you can't escape that too well.
No. Would you rather be lost in the woods with a killer on the loose, or locked in a confirmed haunted insane asylum?
I'll take the woods. I'll take the woods
Oh,
because I've seen enough of those revenge horror movies. I take care of them. I would rig up
I'm
things. I'd figure things out. I would do it.
I'm feeling like you're a scarier bitch than they are. Like, I think you can hold your own. I'm feeling the vibes. I think you got it. So don't. I wouldn't go up against you. I think that would be good. Okay. Would you rather exclusively marry? Let's pretend that you're not married, right? So husband, just
Okay.
pretend. Would you rather exclusively be married to someone who says you can never interact with the horror genre again, but they're
Mm-hmm.
independently wealthy, like massively beyond your wildest dreams wealthy, or be with someone who my question's messed up. Never mind. Look at the plot has fallen here. I have, would you rather date a horror movie fan or someone who will never let you interact with the horror genre again? Like, there's an obvious choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were going to say, "Do I want to be locked in the castle with the beast or something like that?" I'll take the beast. No, I would no,
same.
no. Give me the art person, the creative person. Give me the horror lover. That is where it's at. That's fun. Living creatively is everything, and you can have so much fun and be wonderfully happy. And if you have your health, no, there's nothing to it.
I agree. Much more fulfilling life for sure. So,
yeah.
Would you rather wake up in the middle of the night to Chucky or Pennywise?
Chucky, because I would just pick him up and toss him.
Just like sling him around a little bit.
Chucky just kind of cracks me up.
I know, me too. Me too. Those movies, they are such a riot. It's so funny too that
They're
having
funny.
a sense of humor about like those are the movies that make me laugh. Like now, Paranormal Activity,
absolutely,
that kind of stuff freaks me out. But Chucky, I laugh my ass off with those.
Yes,
they're so funny.
Sure.
Okay, would you rather have knives for hands or a pumpkin for a head?
Oh, I'll take knives for hands because then I can cut hair very artistically, like Edward Scissorhands.
That's exactly right. Like Edward, you'd have to dress like Edward Scissorhands, though. Some late 80s, early 90s Johnny Depp. Yes,
okay.
Yes. Okay. Would you rather become a ghost and haunt anyone that you wanted, or would you rather be a ghost that is left alone for the rest of eternity?
Oh, I would definitely want to haunt people because that also includes snooping in and seeing everything they do, right?
Oh,
that sounds way more interesting.
The nosiest ghost ever. Yeah, no, I would be for sure up in there and be like, "What are we doing today, guys?"
Yeah. Right, like scoot over in the bed here. Let me get in bed here with you. Just watch.
We need a ghost story where the ghost takes books off the person's bookshelf and makes their TBR pile for them. They're like, this is what you should be reading instead. This is what you need. Let me influence your life in a positive way. That is such a riot. That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. Would you rather live in a haunted house or a town overrun by zombies?
Oh, definitely a haunted house. Definitely. No question.
I would do that like regular. Like I have a ghost in my house. So, not really haunting us though, just more of cohabitating with us, I suppose. So, okay. Would you rather have a pet werewolf or a pet vampire?
A pet werewolf would be awesome. I think that sounds great.
Interesting. Yes.
I'm a dog lover.
Oh, fun. Would you rather be trapped in a never-ending loop of your worst nightmare or be hunted by a vengeful spirit?
I will take the latter. I have written about the former, and it was a great story to write. It was so much fun because that was actually, it felt very first personish to me. So I would not want to be in the loop. And that is one of the heaviest little motifs. It's kind of like the movie Groundhog Day is deceptive because it's so easy to enjoy, but the story is so profound, and the idea of it being just this recurring thing is just rather creepy.
So, and we're almost there. We're almost at the end. So, all right.
Great.
Okay, here we go. So, would you rather spend a night in the Overlook Hotel from The Shining or the Bates Motel from Psycho?
Easy to answer. I did spend a night at the Bates Motel. You said Bates Motel. Mm-hmm. I stayed in the Stanley Hotel a couple years ago, and I had an incident, and it was weird, and I had some fun posting on it, but it was enjoyable. I mean, it was kind of sort of like you just feel you're part of something that's way bigger than you have any idea. So I'll take that again.
Okay. Very cool. That's awesome. I've been to the Stanley before. We didn't stay there, but I visited it a couple of times. And I am hoping that on our next, on the visit to Salem, we're going to go by the Hawthorne Hotel and some of the haunted locations. And I'm like, we'll see about it. As long as nothing attaches to me, because I don't mess with that,
Right.
So can't be bringing any of that home. I don't want to boot ghosty out of their comfortable living area. So definitely. Well, I am so thankful and so happy that you joined us on the pod today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you so much.
Yes, this has been great. So we will make sure to have your links posted below. So everyone in the show notes, you'll be able to find direct links to Kimann's Instagram and website and Linktree and Amazon directly to buy her fabulous books. So yes, we'll have to have you on the pod again. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
So much fun. Thank you.
I hope you have a great evening. Bye.
Yep. Safe travels. Bye-bye.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.